Her alibi kissed me first. There's a particular quiet a home learns when it realizes it's being lied to. It's not anger, not yet. It's a pause in the ceiling when the heater clicks on, the way the fridge hums like it's trying to keep a secret cold. Even the cat started stepping more softly, tail twitching like a metronome counting down to something I didn't want to name. Lena began inventing nights that didn't need inventing. Spin class, she'd say, or wine with Mia, and she'd stand at the mirror checking different earrings like passwords. I didn't want to be a suspicious man, the kind who reads significance into lipstick. But the world kept leaving me small, polite clues. The first was a scent, smoke and orange peel, the expensive kind of whiskey that lingers on a collar as if it paid rent. We don't drink whiskey in our apartment. We drink practical wine from a grocer who mislabels regions and hopes for the best. The second clue was a keycard I found in the dryer filter. It hid behind a lint curl like a shy animal and flashed a hotel logo I recognized, the Mirabelle, a few blocks from the river, famous for their martinis and their velvet chairs that swallow a person slowly. I told myself it could have been stuck there for ages. I told myself a lot of things. That night, when spin class stretched toward midnight, I told myself I was only going for a walk. The Mirabelle lobby is all brass and shadows, a jewelry box someone forgot to close. The bar is mirrored the way sins like to be, surrounded by bottles that encourage dramatics. I slipped onto a corner stool where the lighting forgives you. In the reflection, I saw everything twice. The bartender polishing a glass, a couple laughing like they'd rehearsed it, and Lena, my Lena, sliding into a booth near the back like a breath she'd been holding. She wore a dress I didn't know and a smile I recognized from our early years, the one that meant she was discovering herself, and it hurt in the best way. The man who joined her was neat as a folded letter. Slate jacket, easy posture. He touched the inside of her wrist as if that part of her had a doorbell. The whiskey scent reached me even across the room, threaded through with a cologne that could afford to whisper. I didn't make a scene. I didn't even finish my water. Something in me had already sat down on the curb outside to breathe. I drifted from the bar like weather and found myself in the smaller lounge. Low lights, softer music, the kind of place scandals go to exhale. I was alone until I was. She was already at the far end, a woman with rain-black hair and a mouth that looked like it had been busy disagreeing with someone. She had a glass in front of her, and a small silver ring threaded onto a chain around her neck, glinting each time she moved. Her eyes met mine, not in invitation, not in defense, but with the weary recognition of a fellow passenger waiting at the wrong gate. "You too?" she asked. It wasn't really a question. I sat one stool away because that's how strangers tell the truth. "I saw my wife," I said. "She's with a man who smells like someone else's habit." The woman nodded toward the mirror that let us spy without looking. Tall guy, slate suit, laugh that could sell something. "That's the one. His name is Theo." Her mouth tightened around it. "I'm Mara." "Daniel," I said, because I was still Daniel here, before everything I knew became a past tense. We watched, quiet and exposed as film. Lena and Theo were leaning into each other as if there were any other way to lean in that booth. Hands spoke where mouths shouldn't in public. The bartender brought another round and pretended to adjust the candle, the way professionals do when they've memorized the choreography of complicity. "Do you ever feel like the city knows all of us better than we know ourselves?" Mara said. "And it's just waiting for the courage to tell us." "Right now," I said, "I feel like the city is enjoying the show." Her laugh wasn't pretty, it was honest. "I almost didn't come," she said. "I told myself I didn't need proof because proof makes things real. But then I thought better to choose the truth than let it choose me." We didn't touch. I could feel heat from her sleeve like static. The ring on her necklace chimed softly when she shifted, and I felt the sound in my teeth. In the mirror, Theo's hand had found Lena's knee under the table, and Lena wasn't doing anything about it that involved leaving. I should go, I said, or I should stay and become the kind of man who stages spectacles. There's a third option, Mara said. You could not be alone with it. It was such a simple sentence it knocked me sideways. I nodded, and we slipped out a side exit into the alley where the Mirabelle hides its empties. A light rain had started, more suggestion than commitment. The night smelled like copper and orange peel, as if the city had been sipping something it shouldn't. You don't have to talk, she said, leading me toward the river. You can just walk beside me and borrow my breathing. We strolled under the awnings of closed shops and let the rain edit the evening. We passed a busker playing a saxophone so quietly the notes felt like memories you remember by accident. At the corner, a florist had left a bucket outside with a sign that said, "Please take one." The roses were the deep red of theater curtains. Mara plucked one and tucked it behind her ear without ceremony. "Do you mind if I ask," she said, "how long you've been married?" 7 years, I said. We were good at easy things and generous with hard ones. We forgot how to be difficult together. 3 for us, she said. I asked him once what his favorite thing about me was, and he said, "How you always know when I'm lying." I thought it was a joke. I didn't ask which part. We stopped under the skeletal awning of the shuttered ferry terminal. The rain escalated, then softened, then changed its mind again. The river looked like it was considering swallowing its reflection. The closeness between us wasn't accidental anymore. It had gotten deliberate without anyone making a decision. "I'm not usually," I started. "Me neither," she said, smiling like a confession that loves you back. "But tonight I want to feel like something is mine that they can't name." Her fingers brushed my sleeve, a light testing punctuation. I didn't flinch. I didn't lunge. If we were going to do this, it would be a series of permissions. She stepped closer and the rose grazed my cheek when she tilted her head. Her breath carried cinnamon and a little courage, and when our mouths met it was slow, like we were learning the alphabet again. Nothing urgent happened. Everything tender did. Her hands found my collarbone like a promise, and I cupped her face the way you hold a perfectly ripe peach, aware of sweetness, aware of mess, unwilling to waste either. Heat flowered in my chest and then everywhere else, but we kept it where we could live with it later. Her kiss had patience. Mine had thanks. After a long moment, we rested our foreheads together and listened to rain write its warnings on the roof above us. "We'll both hate ourselves if we go upstairs anywhere," she said, not moving away. "I don't want to hate this," I said into the space between us. "I want to remember it as the night we gave back what they took." She took my hand then, fingers lacing with mine like we'd practiced, and the simple intimacy of it was almost indecent. We walked in the kind of silence that isn't empty. Back at the Mirabelle, the booth by the wall was vacant. 2 damp prints on the leather marked where their knees had been. The candle was out. The bartender looked at us as if we'd returned from a war he'd seen before. When I got home, the cat met me at the door and asked a question I was too tired to answer. A minute later my phone chimed. A photo from Lena of a charcuterie board, an audience of empty glasses around it like fans. "Still with Mia. Love you," the text said, and I imagined the hotel sheets learning the shape of her back. I didn't reply. Sometimes silence is the only honest gift. In the morning, the city acted as if nothing happened. The barista spelled my name correctly for the first time in months. A busker on the corner switched to violin and moved a stranger to tears. I texted Lena and said we needed to talk. She answered with a thumbs up that felt like a misread room. Mara and I didn't plan anything dramatic. We planned a meeting at a cafe that left no place to hide. The four of us at a small table, everyone's elbows accidentally touching, the air smelling like cinnamon and consequences. Theo arrived late, took the chair that faced the door, and smiled like he still believed anything could be spun into sugar. Lena looked lovely in a way that hurt me. She was wearing the dress from last night and an expression that said, "Let's get through this quickly so I can fix the story." I didn't ease into it. I put the keycard on the table like a name tag. "I found this," I said, "and last night I saw you at the Mirabelle." Lena's eyes did the math, then turned to me with something raw in them. "Daniel," she began, but my name wasn't enough to carry an explanation. "I know," Mara said quietly, addressing Theo without looking at me. "I saw you too." He tried denial, because denial is what you practice when you run out of poetry. He migrated to apology, then to silence, then to the unconvincing shrug of a man who knows he's not the protagonist anymore. The cafe continued its business. Cups clattered, a milk frother hissed like a tired serpent, and our tiny theater played a very old scene for an audience that had no idea. "I wanted us to feel alive again," Lena said at last. "I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to feel like someone was paying attention to me." "I have been," I said, and it surprised me that it didn't come out as anger. "Maybe not in the way you needed, but I've been here with my sleeves rolled up, waiting for you to tell me where the leak is." She looked away at the window, at the life that keeps happening in the street whether we approve or not. "I'm sorry," she said, and it sounded like it cost her something. She touched the key card, turned it once, let it go. Mara lifted the ring from her necklace and held it in her palm. "I can forgive a lot," she told Theo, "but I can't be erased first and forgiven later." No plates were thrown. No dramatic exits broke the glass. Theo paid the bill because he needed to do something that looked like responsibility. Lena hugged me in that awful way people who used to be intimate hug, the way that says we will never be the same again and I hope we're both kinder for it. We left in pairs and then alone. The next weeks were paperwork and logistics, punctuated by long, ragged pauses where grief asked if it could sit on the couch too. I moved into a smaller place with tall windows and creaking floors. The cat decided we were both his landlords now and negotiated visitation with the charm of an exhausted diplomat. I learned the geography of empty drawers. I learned the recipe for quiet. Mara and I texted rarely, each message as careful as a glass on a wobbly table. Once we met at a park to exchange a book I'd accidentally stolen from the cafe, and we sat on a bench with our knees almost touching, letting June warm our faces. We didn't kiss. We remembered kissing like a place we could visit if we bought a ticket honestly. One evening in late summer, she invited me to her new apartment to help build a bookshelf. This is not a metaphor. We built an actual bookshelf. It leaned a little because life does. We drank tea that tasted like lime leaves and patience. The sun went down and the city clicked on like a stage set. "Do you ever worry," she asked, handing me a screw I didn't need, "that what we did at the ferry terminal wasn't a rescue but a rehearsal?" "I worried it would become the thing I had to confess with the lights off," I said. "It hasn't." She nodded and set the mug down, the clink small and sincere. "I think about your hands," she said, not blushing, just telling the truth like a grown woman. "The way you touched my jaw like it belonged to me." "And I think about your mouth when it decided," I said softly. "How it asked, then answered." We stood in front of the crooked bookshelf and didn't fix it. Imperfection felt suddenly holy. She stepped into me slowly, as if wading into a lake she meant to love. When we kissed this time, it wasn't about reclaiming anything. It was about remembering that bodies are places, and consent is the map. We explored only the countries we could leave without passports. Her hand slid under the hem of my shirt and rested against the small of my back like a vote of confidence. I traced the line of her spine with my fingertips, not to count bones, but to learn a song. When we stopped, it wasn't because the room demanded it. It was because we wanted the future more than we wanted a spectacular story. She pressed her forehead to mine, breathing evenly, the rose from months ago replaced by a curl hooked behind her ear like a secret. "We're not their counterplot," she said. "We're our own book." In the months that followed, we took it slowly. We became regulars at a little breakfast place where the owner overtoasted the bread and didn't care. We held hands like teenagers at crosswalks and let go when the street didn't need witnesses. Some nights we simply fell asleep on opposite ends of the couch, our feet touching, the television asking if we were still watching. We were. We are. Every so often I pass the Mirabelle on my way to the river. The lobby still glows like a lesson I'm grateful I learned. Sometimes I think I see Lena through the glass, but it's always someone else. Another woman looking at herself in a window, deciding on an earring that doubles as a permission slip. I hope she's okay. I hope I am too. The other night, a storm tried to tear the city's wallpaper down. Lightning wrote its fast letters across the sky. The cat, now mostly mine, pretended it wasn't afraid and sat on my chest. My phone buzzed, a message from Mara. "Can you hear the rain from your place?" I could. It drummed on the roof like fingers on a table, impatient and alive. I wrote back, "Yes, come listen to it here." When she arrived, damp hair, bare face, eyes lit by whatever decides to light us after we've been extinguished, we didn't reach for history or blame. We put the kettle on. We let the room teach us our newest version. There's a particular quiet a home learns when it remembers what honesty sounds like. It's not dramatic. It's the soft clack of a mug on wood, the exhale as a lamp warms a corner, the mutter of a cat who has chosen you again. It's a kiss that takes its time, not because it's shy, but because it intends to stay. And when the storm finally slid away and the city unclenched its fists, we lay there in that honest hush, two people who had once been love-struck by a lie, now wide awake and paying attention.